right off the bat, skinny vegan fitness, aka David, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Who are you? For those that might be from my channel that might not know who you are, however you want to go about that question. I know that's super broad, but
That's all
whatever you
right.
feel comfortable sharing, just I think a little intro would be awesome.
Yeah, so my name's David. I am from England, originally from the UK, and I am an activist, full-time activist. I do most of my work now with Animal Save Movement, doing a lot of vigils, setting up new groups. I'm also a videographer for Animal Save Movement, so I'm producing high-quality, like cinematic, powerful images, powerful videos from our events that we do, where we go to slaughterhouses, we go to dairy farms, we go to animal farms, and we document. My background before that, I was in sales. I used to work in like sales recruitment. Before that, I was studying in a biology psychology degree, and I've been vegan for about 10 years, vegetarian my whole life. I'd say
10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, things were a little bit different, man. 10 years ago, let me tell you that. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. And the name of the page I should probably mention here, Skinny Vegan Fitness. Why is it Skinny Vegan Fitness when I'm basically doing everything is activism? It's because when I was starting the page, I was training for a marathon, and I was also training to climb Everest, to Everest Base Camp 3 weeks after the marathon, all to try and, make a good name for vegans and veganism, and obviously to try and raise some money for the animals. And I documented my entire training, and also documented the marathon, and documented the hike. And I originally started it as Skinny Vegan Fitness because I'm a skinny vegan, but I am into fitness. So I figured let's just, let's get rid of that insult, because that insult tends to come to vegans who are skinny quite a lot. And I thought if I call the page Skinny Vegan, then people are gonna have to suck it up and handle it. So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell. Yeah.
Nice. I'll give mine an even shorter nutshell in case there's people here that already know my story, but favorite fruits, mango. Born and raised in Los Angeles, California, lived a very standard American lifestyle growing up, just fast food, McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, almost every single week. I used to hunt, so I've killed animals myself. I've seen that whole side of the non-vegan world. Veganism found, killed animals myself. Not very proud of that at all. So used to hunt, used to fish, kind of just I don't know if that's standard in America, but in the places where I lived. Veganism found me in 2014 for health to start. Then for 2 years, I was sort of just passively sitting by thinking veganism was all about me. And then Earthlings, powerful documentary. If you haven't seen that, highly recommend it. Earthlings slapped me in the face, shook me, woke me up. That's when I decided to become an ethical vegan and an activist. I think those should the second you go vegan, you get active as well. That's a whole nother story. And then I decided to just go full on into activism, quit my job in sales as well. And I've been traveling for the last 2.5 years, really, like intensively, to 31 countries, doing workshops, activism, and really learning what we need to strengthen this movement and to just fight stronger with the animals. And then for the last kind of 6 months, I've been going more on a self-care journey, trying to come back from, which I'm sure we'll talk about a few of those things today. But yeah, just trying to figure out my way in this world right now and still do as much stuff with the animals as possible and promote that vegan message. So that's a little bit about us. And getting into sort of the idea behind, David and I sort of chatted and was like, let's just talk every week. We have a lot to say. We've had a lot of experience within the activist movement, within the animal rights movement, and we want to share that. We also want to share that, get different perspectives from everyone else in the Q&A at the end. But I think to start this off about the content part of it, when you first went vegan, I know that was 10 years ago. If you can think back to 10 years ago, what was that like being a vegan in a non-vegan world when you just went vegan at a time when veganism wasn't really mainstream? I hate saying that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
When it wasn't talked about.
I think for me, because I grew up as a vegetarian, I had already been used to being rejected and made fun of and people not understanding me. So when I did go vegan, even though vegetarianism was far more accepted 10 years ago, veganism wasn't, Well, I'd grown up as a vegetarian, so for me, I'd had my entire childhood being called a freak and a weirdo and all this stuff. So for me, even though it was like that again, I was kind of like, oh, this is familiar. Is this how I grew up? So, it's no different for me. I think the biggest difference, though, it wasn't necessarily the social stuff wasn't quite the problem for me, because I kind of kept myself to myself. I was very apologetic. I was very ashamed of being vegan. I wasn't proud of it. I just didn't want, I didn't want people to know. I would hide it. So that wasn't an issue for me. I think more the issue was just the lack of availability and convenience, because of course, none of that is as serious or as problematic as what happens to the animals, which is why I was staying vegan. But still, like, oh my God, life is so much better now in terms of living as a vegan, with what we have now. Like, you can't, unless you're a vegan 10 years ago, you really can't imagine what it was like. Like, you can't imagine how there was just hardly anything. You'd go to in the UK, you'd go to the Holland and Barrett, the supermarket chain. That's the only place you could buy any kind of vegan burger. That was it. And the ones they were either extremely cheap and disgusting, or they were really expensive and maybe okay. And that was all you could choose. And that was the case for a very long time. So it was interesting. That's for sure. It wasn't as tough as what the animals go through, but it was definitely tough for sure. I don't want to seem like playing myself as a victim. It's just that it was trickier 10 years ago. That's for sure. Did any of that go through? I think there's a delay.
Two questions for you. Why do you think because when I first went vegan as well, I was you could use the term apologetic. Like, I was always like, oh, I'm just doing veganism for me. I don't want to push my belief system or my diet choice or my lifestyle choice on you. Why do you think in the beginning for a lot of people, they have this mentality where they're afraid? There's probably other words I can use for that, but why do you think this whole apologetic mentality comes? Yeah, so why do you think that is in the beginning? Is it lack of knowledge? Is it just not knowing what veganism is actually about?
I think it's a mixture of those. But I think a large part of it is fear. Like, I was scared, man. I didn't want to tell people I was vegan. I was scared about how they would react. I was scared about them asking me questions and me not being able to answer them. And I think the second thing you just said as well about how people not understanding what veganism is, I think that also plays into it, because maybe they think that, okay, this is a personal thing. It's just a diet for me. And why would I tell other people about this? It's a personal thing, when actually, it's far from a personal thing. We know that it's far from a personal choice. It's about as impersonal a choice as any out there that you could make. What other choice do you have to make day to day that could or could not directly result in somebody being killed or being abused their entire life and then killed? How many other decisions do you have to make in a day that would determine that outcome? It's the most impersonal choice you could ever make. So I think it's probably a mixture of the fear and also not understanding that this is not something that's just for me. It's something that really we need to be talking about more and sharing. Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because for me it was 2 years of being vegan without sort of opening up my eyes to who veganism is actually about and to the ethics behind veganism. And that's why, like, my little call to action to everyone watching, if you're not already doing this, because I understand that in the beginning when going vegan, it's like, wow, I'm in this massive non-vegan world. I haven't educated myself. I haven't watched that many documentaries. I haven't read books. I haven't developed that set of guiding principles yet within. I haven't changed my moral compass yet. It took time for me to do that. But I would just say that really, when you go vegan, or in the beginning, or if you're feeling not as empowered to speak your mind and to speak on behalf of the animals, like, understand who veganism is about. And I say the who because the individuals who are being, bred, enslaved, tortured, and killed, and put yourself in that perspective and say, this is how I have to be talking about veganism. Because the sad thing is, in this world today, do you agree? Sadly, I don't agree, but there is a spectrum on what it means to be vegan. And there's you could be this vegan, or you could be freegan, or you can be flexitegan, or whatever you want. But there shouldn't be a spectrum. Like, veganism is this. Like, that's the moral baseline. I think that's the starting point. And it's about the animals, the individuals we're fighting with. So we just have to educate. Every single one of us has to educate.
Exactly, and if not educate, at least something. I think people get it into their minds that if they aren't able to speak or educate like Earthling Ed, then don't do it. That's what they have in their minds. Like, oh, I can't speak like Ed. I'm using Ed as an example because he's. I don't think anyone could say he's ineffective. Okay, he's one of the most effective activists out there. And you know, they look at him and they say, "Oh, I couldn't do that, so I won't do anything." What people don't realize is that it's not always. Ed educates people. He fully educates people, and that's his thing. That's what he does. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you have to do. Like, if you don't feel comfortable educating people, then don't educate people. Just have a chat with them then. And to be honest with you, I'm actually about to. This is a bit of a plug, but there is a video coming on my YouTube that's called "Don't Be Like Ed." I specifically made a video about
away.
I made this video like to specifically address this, about how maybe Ed's way is good for Ed, but it might not necessarily be good for you, or it might not be good for a lot of people out there. So this video will explain this, but I really do think it's important that you just, whatever message you can give, whatever you can do, then you do it. You don't need to be like him. You don't need to be like, if you like Paul Bashir, you don't need to be like Paul Bashir either. You've seen his videos. He has a very different approach. Him and Joey have got a very different approach, you know. You don't have to be like any other activist. You've got to find what you want to say, how you want to do it, what your style is. Whatever that is, just go for it, and you'll develop, you'll learn, and you'll make mistakes, but you'll get better, you know?
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that, because I think this ties so well into being vegan in a non-vegan world. You have to find your voice. You have to find the way you're comfortable advocating for veganism and advocating for the animals and helping to translate their voice the best way as possible. And it's funny you used Ed, because in my workshops doing outreach, we're talking about Earthling Ed, by the way, if those of you didn't understand that. But I always tell people is read his amazing 150-page book on debunking the top excuses, but translate it into your own words. Like, find your own flow, your own style, your own way that you feel comfortable speaking with people about veganism, because that's going to come from you more authentically, and your message is going to be more receptive, I believe. So, and I saw that there were some questions coming in as well. So if you are just joining, we're going to have time for the Q&A at the end. So you'll have to listen to us for a little bit longer. Wanted to just ask this. I wanted to just ask this kind of deep question, but for those of you, you didn't go too much into what you've actually done, I feel, because we could probably talk about that forever. But from what I've seen on this end of your journey is you've exposed yourself to an incredible amount of pain, suffering, injustice, and death on your activism tours and your travels, especially, I think, in India on your tours. You've seen a lot of animal suffering and animal cruelty and animal exploitation there. And that's kind of another level of being vegan in a non-vegan world. Once you've sort of firsthand gotten close to the suffering and bore witness and experienced that, how do you feel now? Like, as honest as you want to answer this question, I can share some of my insight afterwards, but how are you feeling now in this world after you've experienced what you've experienced?
To be totally honest with you, how I feel, it's not necessarily what I've seen and what I've done that makes me feel angry or disappointed or upset or emotional. That does make me feel those ways, but I can handle that. I can handle what I've seen. I can process it. I've created content from it. I've exposed it. I've shared their stories. Yes, sometimes it's on my mind. Sometimes it makes me, you get flashbacks. It's you get, potential PTSD potentially. Somebody's saying my audio is breaking up. Is that true, Josh? Is my audio breaking up? Is my audio breaking up?
Yes, it's been a little bit in and out recently.
My audio breaking up?
Yeah.
Moment.
Quick pause. Yeah, I think so.
Trying to be, is this working now? Okay.
Yeah, we'll try it. We'll see where it goes.
All right, I just came out and came back. Is that any better?
Let's see, where was I? Yeah, you were talking about how you're feeling.
Is that any better?
You back, David?
I'm trying to be, yeah. Is this working now or not?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try it. We'll see where it goes.
All right. Okay.
What was I? Yeah, you were talking about how you're feeling.
Yeah, so basically what I would say is that it's not necessarily what I've done or seen that is causing most of the feelings that I have, the strong feelings, the emotions, the disappointment, the really harsh emotions. It's actually the others in our movement that are causing the most issues for me after seeing these things. Because unfortunately, we have to talk about this, we have to address this, that vegans, we're all so used to fighting against everybody because we're the minority, that we end up fighting against people who are on our side. We end up labeling them as enemies. We're so busy looking for enemies that we end up finding enemies of organizations or enemies of individuals that are having influence. Like, people make enemies of all different people within our movement, and unfortunately I found myself on the receiving end of that more than once. And that's what's difficult when we go and do these things in these slaughterhouses and these farms, and then our movement isn't supportive. Our movement is, people are not helping each other, they're not supporting each other, they're not there for each other. Honestly, man, that's what hurts. That's what really hurts. Yeah.
No, it's infighting. Infighting, I truly believe, has caused some of the most negative thoughts for me, the most just is created such a toxic mentality for myself, because we're trying to do so much good. We have the same mission, the same values, the same end goal, and yet we're still fighting from within. And like you said, there shouldn't be my form of activism is better than your form of activism. It shouldn't be my organization is better than yours or more effective than yours. It shouldn't be my social media platform is bigger than yours and I covered this topic before you. It should be everyone doing what they feel comfortable doing, using their unique skill sets, using their unique sort of talents that they can bring to the table. And if we're all doing that, and we're all coming together and we're all being true to ourselves, boom, that's how we're gonna have the greatest impact, I believe. So, and that's a big facet that we have to talk about being vegan in a non-vegan world, is dealing with the vegans.
This is it.
Just a quick thing. To try to be mindful of my time on social media, I have timers set on my phone. So my Instagram is gonna go out in probably 2 minutes. So stay on. I will just have to put in a little code. So it'll say that it's paused for a second, and then I'll come back. So if it cuts me off. But yeah, did you want to add anything onto that?
I do, because we're talking about being vegan in a non-vegan world, and we have to consider that this has to be talked about, because yes, I bet people came to here, they were expecting, oh, we're going to talk about farmers, we're going to talk about slaughterhouses, we're going to talk about non-vegans, but these people, honestly, dude, these people can't hurt you. They can't hurt you. Physically, maybe they could attack you, fine. But it's probably not going to happen, right? Mentally, they can't hurt you. Why? Because you don't give a shit about them. No offense, but you don't care about some stranger who's a non-vegan. You don't care about some farmer you don't know. The people that can hurt you are the ones that you care about. And the ones that you care about when you are a vegan are the ones that you give your time and attention to, which obviously family and friends, they can hurt you. But it's usually other vegans that fall into that category, and these are the ones that tend to, in my experience, these are the ones that have hurt me far, far more than any other non-vegan or farmer has ever done. Because I guess I have such high hopes. I think we all do. We all look at other vegans and we like to believe that we're also, noble, and like we're going to support each other because we care and we see what they've done and they see what you've done, and you connect, you're like, heart to heart, like we'll be here for each other. But reality, man, there's a lot of bad eggs in our movement. That's a really speciesist thing to say, isn't it? Bad eggs. There are a lot of bad actors in our movement.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
We still have to, I think PETA put out like a how to veganize those common statements. Like instead of kill two birds with one stone, it's feed two birds with one scone. Yeah. So, and it's all about language. We're evolving, we're learning. It's good that you caught yourself, and I tend to do that all the time. But you're right, and I think that's a huge. Maybe we even dedicate one of these episodes to just talking about community building and infighting and how much of a detriment to this movement that actually is. Because just sometimes I sit there and I like think about how beautiful this movement would look if everyone was just focusing on the activism that they love to do and that they were super good at, and then tiptoeing around in other forms of activism so they can figure out where that intersects for them and how they can support other movements. And, I took quite a bit of conflict resolution courses throughout my life. And one of the biggest things that I found is not all conflict could just be ended. You can't just like kiss and make up and have a hug and everyone's fine and dandy. One of the best ways to resolve conflict is a thing called peaceful separation. You try to hash out your differences, you talk about it, you see how everyone's feeling, and you just go your separate ways, but without trash talking each other that way. You let this person do this person do this, especially if it's working on progressing the movement. And then maybe in 6 months' time, you come back together and you feel how that is.
You know what? Like that's awesome. And I think this kind of thing is great. And I think even if we can get two people together to do that, that's awesome. But I think even easier than that, what it's even easier than that to do is just to ensure that. Oh wait, am I still there? Are you still hearing me? Am I still here?
Coming, I told you.
Cool.
Tried to kick me off.
So, no, what I was saying was even easier than that, man. Even an easier thing to do than that is if you've got a problem with someone, you've got a problem with what someone's doing or how they're saying something or whatever it is, just send them a private message. Like, why the hell do we think this stuff needs to be public? Why would you call someone out publicly? If you really want to help them, you would always reach out to them before you would do anything publicly. Like, if you truly believed somebody was doing something that was like, I don't know. The thing is, it's not, the things that people publicly start fighting about are always minor. Like if somebody did something like, I'll give you an example. There was a guy who, I won't name names, he made a video of him sat down surrounded by rescue cows. And in that video, he was telling people it's okay to not be vegan. He was telling people it's okay just to do as vegan as you can be, right? And in that video were rescued cows from those industries that he was saying that it's okay to support. So in that case, that's one of the rare occasions where a public comment is necessary. You need to say, hey, this is not okay. Vegans do not support this. And there were many vegans that were on there too telling him, dude, for anybody reading this, this is not okay. We need you to be vegan. These animals need you. That's a circumstance that is, okay, it's valid to make a public comment. But if someone's just like posting their opinion on a video and you don't like their opinion or you don't like a style they've said or you don't like the way they're doing things or their tactics, or just send them a message. What's the need to have this big public, argument cause so many problems, or screenshot it and share it and bitch about them and all? Dude, what's happened to the world, and that this is what we do?
The infamous screenshot. I mean, and I mean, we could talk about this for so long, but like you said, hold on, something stuck in my tongue. There we go. Live streams, gotta love it. I always tell people in my workshops that if we want to see a more inclusive movement, a more supportive movement, one where we're focusing on our positive mental and emotional and physical well-being, we have to start lifting each other up instead of bringing each other down. You may not agree with what everyone does or with a certain style of activism or a certain way that someone approached another vegan, but if you just don't contribute to it yourself, if you just remove yourself from that and objectively view what's going on and try to resolve that conflict in person if you can get in person, awesome. Go have some tea, some coffee, and chat it out and see what you can do. Keep the animals at the top of the mind. Keep the mental, physical, and emotional well-being at the top of the mind. We need to be working together for us to achieve these massive goals and to get to that end goal of total animal liberation. So for those of you watching, like I'm sure I've seen some of the things people have been saying in here, and it's, we feel for you. I mean, it's just by being on social media, just by being an activist and going against the norm, you're gonna have people say stuff to you. So don't react, don't participate, and hopefully we'll strengthen this movement together and have more talks on this. But I want to get into a few more things because we have flying by already. 10 more minutes before I want to go into the Q&A. So any questions or comments, we'll be getting into those in about 10 minutes. I want to talk about a few things that, actually, first thing, I won't make it one, but what are the two biggest challenges you faced being vegan in a non-vegan world?
All right, that's a good question. The two biggest challenges. All right, so I have one, but I don't know about the other. One of them is, okay, my biggest challenge, biggest challenge for me has been after entering into this world where I now have been intimate with the system. Like I've been sprayed with animal blood multiple times in slaughterhouses. I've been as close as you can get to these things happening in dairy farms, and now I'm intimate. I know exactly how it all works. I know all the things from like Dominion and Land of Hope and Glory, etc. All these, I know it's all real now. I've been there. I've seen it. Like I said, I've been sprayed with the blood. I know this is how these things work now. After being there and seeing it, I think what I found the most difficult is experiencing society after you know what's happening beneath it. The underbelly of this negative piece, this false piece that we all exist in. Once we got knowledge of that, you experience that, man. Living as a normal person with people who are eating this stuff and using this stuff, and like that's been my biggest challenge for sure.
It's a good one. I feel, just to add a little bit on mine, and everyone's going to have challenges, and all these challenges are valid. And I think that we need to be talking about them more openly. We need to be showing a little bit more vulnerability and reaching out to our support systems, because I held a lot of things in over those 3 years. I was doing like very intensive day-to-day activism and exposing myself to a lot of that. And what I found helped a lot for my mental and emotional well-being was talking about it with people, because I find my biggest challenge is just knowing what goes on and having the feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. And I think that's been something I've been battling for the last really hard over the last year, of just like, I wake up and sometimes I get super frustrated or really sad, really angry that like, it's like I woke up in this nightmare and everyone else is sleepwalking. And I'm just there, like awake. And I'm like, oh, every once in a while, I see someone else woke up over there walking around. I'm like, hey, what's going on, my vegan activist friend? But then I look around and it's millions of other people sleepwalking, and they just have their eyes closed and they don't know what's going on. And for me, that's my biggest challenge. And what I do to combat that is just really focus on the self-care routines, really focusing on going back within, using that support system, and understanding why I'm doing what I'm doing, and knowing that it's a constant evolution for me. My activism is changing all the time, and I'm exploring different avenues of what I can do instead of like boots on the ground activism, more online stuff, or like even the simple things. Like I was talking with a couple of my friends about different forms of activism that we can be doing online, mass online actions, reaching out to non-vegan businesses, writing to prisoners, is something that has just been, my eyes have just been opened up to that, actually, when a friend of mine talked to me about that. Like even writing just a letter about what you're doing in the day and that you're sitting at this park, and like can mean a lot. That's, to me, these are all different forms of activism and how we can support each other. So constantly dealing with that for me. But once again, that's a whole nother chat. I want to talk quickly before we get into the Q&A about family, friends, and relationships. What's that like for you, vegan in a non-vegan world? Just however you want to answer that or talk about that.
Yeah. I guess I'm quite privileged in that my mum is vegan. She was vegan before me. My youngest brother is also vegan, and obviously my girlfriend Annie is vegan. So that's initial kind of people, and that's not necessarily always around me, but most of the people that that I say I care the most about are vegan, which is great. I'd say the friendships I've had with non-vegans have had a lot of strain. Of course, I've only recently rediscovered the idea of like giving more time to these people, you know, like giving them more of my time, because a couple of years ago I was done. I couldn't hang with them, I couldn't handle it. And then I kind of revisited the idea of being friends with them and see if I could handle it again. And we have our rules, we have our regulations. They know where I draw the line. They know what things they can, you know, we can talk about, what things we can't talk about, what things they can do or more specifically eat around me. Because it's like, if you want to spend time with me, these are my rules, right? And it's only going to be shit for you if you don't follow the rules, because I'm going to say something. So, you know what I mean? We had to find that middle ground where, like, because the friendship will suffer. If you're an activist 100% of the time, you're not going to be able to have relationships with non-vegans. It's not going to happen, because it's just not going to happen. Yeah.
That bubble.
Yeah.
That vegan activist bubble. And I don't think that's reality, sadly. I don't think that's how to have a balanced life, because people always ask me, like, do you have non-vegan friends? Like, how's your family? Like, in the past when I wasn't in a relationship, would you ever date a non-vegan? Like, all these questions come up, and I think you have to have balance. And a lot of my closest friendships with the two of my best friends that aren't vegan have been around for 10 or more years. So it's like, it's not as black or white as that is. And I think, like you said, my best friends know that I've taken the Liberation Pledge. They know that we're going to vegan restaurants and we're together. They don't joke to me anymore. I mean, it took some priming. Like, I had to really like train them to not do that stuff for me. But so was your family always vegan when you went vegan?
Well, I have a younger brother who isn't vegan. He's vegetarian, but the youngest brother is vegan. And yeah, my mum and the youngest brother were vegan before me. Something you mentioned just then, though, I wanted to just jump back to that, the bubble. Dude, that is, I've been talking with Annie about that, my girlfriend, about that a lot, because, dude, this vegan bubble's dangerous, man. Like, if you go in, obviously, first things first, anybody watching this, please get yourself a vegan community. It's very important to surround yourself with people that you can help each other with, but don't fall into it so hard that you make it your entire life, that you live and breathe veganism with vegans, because, like Josh said, it's not, dude, like you said, it's not the real world. It's a bubble. And the problem with this bubble, it seems harmless, but the problem with this bubble is you completely lose contact with what reality is, especially if it's an activist bubble. Like, you end up doing things, saying things that you think are effective or that you think are really good, and they're only good within that bubble. It's only other activists that are happy about the thing you've done, or that are liking the thing you've done, or that think it's good. Whereas sometimes the reality is that the thing you are doing or the thing you are saying, it's not something that is the most effective, if that makes sense. It just seems like it is because all the activists are behind you and all the vegans like it. And that's something I had to really face recently with my Instagram, with what I've been posting. I used to post stuff that was clearly for activists and vegans, as in things that were like framed as this is activism, but realistically it was only vegans that were liking and commenting on it. And the second I switched that up and started to make my posts actually aimed at non-vegans, I lost a shitload of engagement. I lost a shitload of likes. People weren't commenting, people weren't liking, people were barely sharing. And I realized, but the reach was still high, right? The numbers were high, but not of likes, comments, and shares, which told me, yes, that is effective then, because people are seeing it, but they're not vegan. Otherwise, they would have liked it, right? So, yeah, dude, that bubble's dangerous, man. It really is.
Yeah, and like, just to add on to that, because I love that this is just a free, open conversation, because one of my closest friends is not vegan, but he's like so almost vegan. I never usually like saying so almost vegan. He's not. He's so almost plant-based. But he's also one of my biggest supporters. And I know people are like, how could he be your biggest supporter if he's not vegan? And what it's actually done with, I mean, I love spending time with my best friend who's not vegan. And we have such a good time because we have years, tens of years of history built up. Spending time with non-vegans, I don't spend time with a lot of non-vegans, but when I spend time with the few that I do, it gives me a lot of perspective on life. It gives me a lot of perspective in regards to my activism, on what I could be doing differently. It also gives me a lot of insight into the non-vegan world and his way of thinking and how I can tailor my outreach approach based off of some of the things he's saying. And it's, once again, I always say, we got to play the long game and the short game. You're going to have some people in your life that are the short game and are like vegan right away, in 6 months, in a year. You're going to have the long game, that people that take 3 years, 5 years, 9 years. Don't stop playing the game, but focus a lot of your energy on the short game. And balance is key, going back to just the friends, family relationship. Like personally, like thankfully, I met someone special. My partner, Kirsten, I don't know why I looked over there. She's like outside on the balcony and I cannot see that. But I could never be in a relationship with someone who's not vegan. However, I've had discussions with a lot of people who say, hey, I've been married to my husband or my wife for 20 years and I'm vegan and they're not. What do I do? I don't want to sit here and give marital advice for people who have been in a relationship for 20 years. I think you got to dig deep and really talk this out and get that perspective and figure out what's best for you, what's best for that relationship. I'm not here to say don't date non-vegans. I'm here to say that I love spending time with vegans, love being in a relationship with a vegan, love all my family, but love spending time with family that are vegan or supportive of that. And I think that just goes into creating a more balanced lifestyle for us. So that's all I got to say about that. I guess we have 19 minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to add before opening up the floor to some Q&A?
I mean, yeah, you said you've got one of the supporters that is supporting you even though they're not vegan, and I think that's really interesting because I've got the similar thing with myself as well. I've got a guy who's supporting me, or a few people that support me, old friends who are not vegan too. So I am also experiencing that. So yeah, that's just wanted to share that, and it's an interesting thing.
Great that I'm not alone in that, because I was just with this friend and he was here in Vienna. We went to some cubes. He's been to a Dominion screening with me and watched me talk at it. Like, he's seen it all. He's followed my journey. He's just not vegan yet, but he's told me, and he goes, you know what? I will be vegan. Like, I know that. I'm just not there yet. And he tells me why. Regardless, in the beginning, I used to get upset and blah, blah, blah. I appreciate right now that whenever we're together, it's only vegan. It's never jokes about veganism. It's all support. It's asking me about my activism. It's trying new vegan food. And slowly by that's the long game for me. And that's a support system. I got to remember the friendship before the fact that he's not vegan to start. Whether or not I agree with his actions wholeheartedly, same with the family members that aren't vegan. So, and I think someone might ask this in the Q&A, but I want to go into the Q&A. David and I are planning on doing more of these talks every single week. So we could probably sit here for hours and hours talking about these things. But let's open up the floor to a Q&A. We'll try to take notes of some of these questions. If we don't get to them, send us a direct message either to David or myself, or save them for the next time. But yeah, thank you again for listening. We're going to see how this works. We've been recording on a couple different audio devices, and we'll see if we can put this together for, I don't know, a podcast or a YouTube. But if you have any questions, now's the time, and we'll see how we go about answering those. The floor is yours, everyone.
You know, this is like, there's been so much more we could have talked about. It's crazy.
I know.
It's a shame these are limited to 1 hour.
It was too quick.
Oh man, hell yeah.
Here we go. This is a good question. I would like advice for help becoming a full-time activist. David, what's your advice? And we'll try to we'll answer these as quickly as possible.
I'll be straight. I'll be to the point. I'm sorry. I've been a little bit I've been blabbing on a little bit. I'll try and keep it more concise from now on.
No. I talked a lot too.
All right. So yeah, for me, the biggest advice is you've got to find what you want to do, and you've got to make sure that you pour everything into it. Don't just this is a Josh quote. Don't just be another activist, because that to be a full-time activist, that's not going to work out. You can't just do what Ed does or do what Joey does because they're doing it, right? You got to do you. And that's what people are going to support, and that's how you'll be able to sustain yourself, because the only reason that we're not all full-time activists is money, isn't it? It's sustainability. We can't sustain it. So if you want to sustain yourself, you've got to give the community something that they've never seen before, or give them a reason to support you, because at the beginning, you're going to need them to support you. Then as you grow, maybe you start working with an organization, but you're not just going to be able to go into an organization. You need to get some miles under your belt. You need to show that you've been on the ground, you've worked, you've learned, you've built some reputation, you've built some skills and some knowledge, and you're ready to be, you're ready to work with an organization as a full-time activist. I think that's how I did it anyway, and I'm sure Josh, I'm sure you have something.
No, everything that you said is great, and what I'd also recommend too, just to add a little bit on top of that, is really figure out for yourself what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it. And like David said, I think finances are one of the biggest questions I get asked is how do you support yourself? I worked for 4.5 years at my sales business that I had before, saving as much money as I could to be able to travel wherever and whenever I wanted. And then doors started opening along the way where I got some donations, some support, started selling t-shirts, doing some freelance stuff for organizations. I'd say get your finances in check, but also understand and figure out what does a full-time activist look like to you? Is it starting a clothing company? Is it owning a restaurant? Is it being a nutritionist? Is it being a psychologist? Is it being a boots on the ground activist? There's so many different ways to be a full-time activist. I tell all of my friends that are restaurant owners, because they say, oh, thank you so much for all your activism. I go, thank you so much for all your activism. Like, you own a vegan business, you owning a vegan restaurant. Here's where I can eat all the time and send all the non-vegans to come your way. So figure that out. When things become more uncomfortable than comfortable, when you pass that threshold of where you are in life, you're going to have to make that change. Take the leap of faith, but make sure you have an action plan for if things don't go well, if you run out of money. You cannot fail if you are trying to do some amazing work for the animals. So
that could be an entire session. That could be an entire live on that.
Oh,
just on that.
Oh, yeah. What's the best way to prepare for direct action in terms of self-security? I don't know, in regards to security, I don't know how much we could talk about on a mobile device, but I would say best way to prepare for direct action is to educate yourself, read a lot of stuff. I know DXE, Direct Action Everywhere, has some free resources and manuals for how to scout out factory farms, slaughterhouses, to plan direct action. I would just say to do your homework. Do your homework, understand the laws in your area, wherever you are, understand the repercussions, and don't for once think that you are sort of immune to the law, that like you're just going to get by. Like, you always have to know something could happen negatively in regards to the legal side and physical harm. That's all I really gotta say on that. How can we take veganism to another level, doing something new? To attract people.
Yeah. That's a really good question. But the thing is that if either me or Josh tells you something, then that's not your thing. Like, you're asking basically, how do I be creative? Neither of us can answer that question for you. That you've got to figure that out. Like, I'm creative in my way. I make videos, I make photos. Josh is creative in his way. He's very inspiring, motivating. He's got that personality that's really big for him. What have you got? What is your thing, man? Yeah, dude, seriously, what is your thing though? Like, what is your thing? You figure out your thing, and what are you good at? It can be anything. You could be a financial advisor, and that's your skill. You're really, really good at finances and maths and equations and working out. Then you could somehow bring veganism into that. You could be the vegan finance guy or girl, and you could make your entire platform, your entire approach about that, and get all the finance industry to go vegan. Like, honestly, it can be anything, literally anything. It's got to be you. It's got to come from you.
And I think we have to challenge our actions every single week. We have to challenge our plans every single month. Like in a business, they do weekly reviews, they have weekly meetings. Let's always be objective at what we're doing in this movement and brainstorm and see how we can take it to the next level. What was effective, what wasn't effective, and how are we going to make change? And I think a big thing starts with community support and working within a larger movement together so that we can really strategize. We got to be more of strategists. We got to really think from a marketing perspective. I always say, if I could go back to college, which I don't think I want to ever go back to college, I would have double majored in business and marketing. So I understood how to run a business and I understood how to market my business. So I think we can kind of be doing that. It's a really, really good question. Besides standing in the tofu section of the natural foods grocery store, how have you guys found vegan partners? You want to start?
I basically went to a grocery store and I picked up a load of carrots, and I just walked around with them in my hand, and the vegan girls, they just come out, they just appear. And they're like, just trying to eat the carrots. And that's how you kind of find other vegans, basically. Sometimes you get guys come out too, and you've got a new vegan friend. It's okay, but you can also use it to, the girls come over to you, hi, nice to meet you, I'm a vegan too. And then this is a really nice way to meet vegans. You just get some carrots, go outside and hold them up, and then there you go.
I use cucumbers.
Cucumbers, okay. Yeah, nice.
No, but really, how did you meet Annie?
We met at we were going to Alex Bez's workshop. So I was going to Alex Bez's workshop to help him. Amazing Vegan Outreach. This was in Berlin. That's his YouTube, Instagram, Amazing Vegan Outreach. I was going to help out. And he has said, I've got a friend. They've got an apartment. Come over. You can stay here for free. And Annie was already staying there. And that's how we met, basically. We met each other like maybe briefly before that, like very briefly, but this was the time where we actually properly met. So through the vegan community, through activism is how to meet vegan friends and potential vegan partners, for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, my story was the same. I mean, it goes back to contradicting the vegan bubble, but if you spend time in the vegan movement and the activist movement, it's like, if you want to meet someone who likes the same hobbies as you, go do those hobbies. Like, go do those things. You're going to meet like-minded individuals. But yeah, I met my partner, Kirsten, here in Vienna doing activism. So get involved.
I've heard good things about Tinder. There's a lot of Tinder activists, actually.
I do know that. How do you approach veganism to non-vegans in times of a pandemic like now? Great question.
Oh, I did a video on that today. If any
Thanks,
of you saw
Kirsten.
That. I did a video on that today, basically saying that unfortunately, this pandemic came from how we treat other animals. So it's directly linked to animal rights. So it's actually a really good opportunity for us to say, okay, let's take care of ourselves right now, isolate yourself, stay healthy, eat healthy, eat plant-based, get your immunity up, but think for the future, because do you want this to happen again? No. So how did it happen? Let's go back and see. Well, we were messing with animals as usual, and what happened? We caught something from them, and now most of the world is getting sick. So how about in the future, we don't fuck with animals, and then nature won't fuck with us, to put it bluntly like that. That's how I've been saying it, and I know that's quite to the point. You don't need to say it like me, but this is how I would say to advocate right now, is to draw a link here, because it's a current topic and everyone's talking about it and people are suffering, and it's caused by what we're doing to animals. So, it's a time where we should be really vocal, actually.
And I agree, and I think I offer a little bit of a different perspective on that. I'm always one to cut to the chase and say, hey, we obviously know this is where influenza viruses like the coronavirus come from. We know they come from animals in live market, or non-human animals in live markets. That's the only way these influenza viruses are able to be hosted and sent out to the world. So I do think we need to talk about them. But I also have been thinking, once again, challenging my own strategy on what is the most effective way. And then I think everyone's going to do their own way. So maybe a more direct approach, an aggressive approach in your face is going to reach some people. But then also maybe some people say, well, that's being insensitive to the people who are suffering right now from the coronavirus, who are sick, or maybe who have people in their life that have died or have lost their job. So maybe there's a balance. I think we always have to be talking about it. It comes down to our language and our tone. But like David said earlier, everyone's got a different tone, so use it. My tone now has recently been just like talking about it objectively, but stating this is where it comes from. I'd like to see us learn from our mistakes now. And these are choices and these are actions we can take right now to make sure that a pandemic like this doesn't happen again in the future. So whatever you're comfortable with, I say in times like these, we should be laser focused on being a little bit sensitive, but also not to where it borders between unapologetic or apologetic. so that we can still drive home the message.
I think we've got to be careful, man. I think I agree with you in one extent, and I think I agree with you. I agree with you completely. If some people can do a more considered message, something that's more calm and more, they think about it, a more curated message where they consider how people are going to react and they don't want to offend people, that's great. But I think also it is necessary for the others who are just to the point. And I think we're all needed, because at the end of the day, not all messages work for everyone, but all messages work for someone. That's what I truly believe that.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to tell someone how to do this. I'd say you shouldn't do it that way, you should do it that way. I'm just happy they're doing something. And even if that, even if that thing is I don't know, dude, even if that thing is considered to be offensive, I'm still happy they spoke about it, and then maybe they'll do it differently in the future. I mean, I don't know, but it's not for me to tell someone you did it wrong. I'm not going to say that unless what they're saying is anti-vegan. If what they're saying is like, hey, be kind of vegan, no, that's I'm never going to stand by that. If the message is abolitionist, if the message is that animals are the focus, then I mean, I'm happy they're speaking. Then I would never have a problem with that. I don't think
it's true. I'm gonna put 2 or 3 more questions up. Let's rapid fire these answers because we have 3 or 4 minutes, and I want to do a closing statement. You are all awesome for asking these. Should I try to convince cynics and nihilists who say stuff like morality is subjective, or should I not waste my time? My quick answer to that would be whatever you're comfortable with. My experience is it goes nowhere with those people, and it only stresses me out. I would move on to more short game people and let them be reached by someone else.
My short answer to that is if somebody's filming your outreach, please do engage with them, because these people tend to say really, really stupid things when morality is subjective, they say that, and then you can end up getting them to say some things that are absolutely ridiculous. Like Humane Hancock, go to YouTube, Humane Hancock, and watch what some people say to him with the morality is subjective argument. Watch how far it goes, and you'll see why it's important to go into those conversations if you're filming it, because it's good to show people how ridiculous other people can be when talking to vegans. It really helps. So that's my answer, yeah.
All right, last question. I think this is a good one. I like it, but how do you guys handle stress? We got, I'll give you 1 minute, go.
Oh my goodness. I don't really handle stress very well. I run, I go to the gym. There you go. That's it.
Nice. Hey, exercise, Skinny Vegan Fitness, get those workouts. Wish I could say the same about running and or gym. I get a nice stretch routine for 15 minutes in the morning. That's about it. The best way I handle stress is talking about it with my partner, venting. And even though sometimes I'm very annoying and it's not good for me to vent that way, but I like to talk it out and get it out there. Meditation helps me. Long walks with a lot of music in my ear really helps. And I try to handle it better and better every day, but I just try to objectively view what's going on. Doing a Vipassana meditation taught me a lot. So that's how I handle the stress on there. So there's a few other questions. Sorry that we couldn't answer those. I saw a couple more coming in. Send those to us directly if you want to maybe take a screenshot of those and send them to us, or join the next live stream that we do. But for now, since we have a minute, well, my Instagram hasn't told me yet, but just wanted to once again thank you all first for coming and listening to us talk and giving your input and asking questions. I know in this time, especially when the majority of us are isolated, it's really, really good to break up that time and to still feel like we're learning, that we're contributing, that we're strategizing. So from my aspect, David, it was awesome to connect with you again and to just share some ideas, and I really appreciate you being down for this idea. If you would like, who would be up? Give a little thumbs up or press the heart buttons if we should continue to do this every single week. If you would be interested in coming into an hour-long live stream when you can. This is something that we talked about and just want to do that. So next week, maybe I don't know, I like the Vegans in a Non-Vegan World title, but I guess we can talk about some different things for next week. So if you want to see a specific topic for next week, send us a message, comment here, let us know, and we'll continue to have these. We got some thumbs up.
Yeah, I
like
see a
them.
few. That's nice. Yeah,
Any closing statements?
Yeah, great to be here.
Wow.
I really. You've gone. Where have you gone? Oh no! It didn't give him the 1 minute. Oh, goodbye, Josh. We lost him.
Instagram is savage. So savage. Usually Instagram gives me like a 1 minute
Well, that was good.
warning, but it just cut us off. So,
good
hey,
fun.
good live stream, man.